Hey, what up, y'all? Good evening. 6 p.m. on the dot. We got almost first quarter moon right here, and Venus and Saturn are about to set, so I'm gonna head on over there. What up, Mark and Kimmy and Reginald and everybody join in. Hope everybody's having a great day so far. It's gonna be a fun one tonight, and go for a couple hours here. Thanks so much, man. Much appreciated. Is that the one from yesterday? You picked it up? Super cool of you. So thanks. And thanks for the kind words, Kimmy. Welcome, Nancy. Hope everybody's doing great. It is chilly for sure tonight. And the image is definitely being affected by the turbulence, but it's gonna be nice. I pulled up Venus right here. So we got another, like, maybe 30 minutes with Venus, so I'm gonna stick around for a little bit. Sun is about to set, so I got some blue skies still. You can see the background. But we're gonna jam and stay cozy on the stream. It's like I don't even have enough clothes for this kind of weather. I had to dig out the old closet bag. Triple jacket, that's how it goes. What about this tune? We got new songs cooking up. Hopefully they'll be done by the full moon. That's the plan. All right. Doing a little bit of Venus right here, zoomed in with the wide shot. So not a lot of clarity, but nice brightness. Yeah, carrot juice is simpler. Coffee needs prep, but I kind of am craving some. What's up, Polly B as well? And everybody hanging out. Meredith, what's up? And Nancy, and Reginald says, see you at 12.4K subs now. That's pretty cool. Still remember the good old days. We're still there. It's still like 20 people live. And I always think about it, I'm like, anything more than like 30, 35 people, it becomes like a mess in the chat room. So it's perfect. It's just the right amount of people that we can just have like a cozy, cool, everybody being heard, and I can read all the comments without losing track. You know, a lot of streams are full of like anxiety because they just don't know how to handle just that amount of people talking at once. It almost the value of having a chat room after 100 people are commenting is almost lost. You see some of those million-plus channels like Rick Beato, for example. It's really hard to keep track of what people are talking about, so ultimately it just becomes a blur. This is kind of nice, actually. Ooh, hot chocolate sounds good too. And cinnamon and coffee. Yeah, I don't have any cinnamon, unfortunately. What's happening, Benjamin von Brecius? How's it going? So yesterday I talked a lot about aliens and conspiracies and propaganda and also lunar geology. And I could do the same tonight, but I didn't think about anything before I started the show because I just finished work and I just decided to look outside and it was already ready to go. So I set up quick and it's just going to be a chill session before dinner. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat or anything from previous shows that you want me to elaborate upon or any topics. Of course, taking the opportunity to remind people to check out other Electric Universe channels, Thunderbolts Project, Electric View, Kronos, Electric Universe Eyes, Greg J, Sky Scholar, and the works, so many others, but check out my description and playlists for more of that. Also check out Bandcamp. I know some of y'all bought the music recently, so thank you so much. It's very kind. This is how you can support the channel and me. And let's see. Get some more tunes here, and let's head over to the moon. It's insane. Okay, a little bit of Saturn. It just got dark enough, so Saturn is hanging out right above Venus tonight, about a third of the way to the moon. This is still the really wide shot with a ton of chromatic aberration, not chromatic aberration, just turbulent aberration tonight because of the cold. So, not the clearest shot, but it is Saturn. It's always good. So just jumping in the chat here. All this sounds good. Ginger, and let's see. Reginald says, do I have any plans to do some solar observation? And so I have the gear to be able to do it. It's just one of those things that the sun is really a difficult target. A lot of the times when I have time, it's already set. During the day, it's really too hot, and sometimes, especially during the day, it's overhead, so difficult to set up the scope like that. I'd really love to get into it, but it costs a bunch of money to get the proper gear to do solar work. So I don't really have many plans. The last one was trying to do the Mercury transit, which was on 11/11. No, was it? It was... I thought it was. Yeah, so November 11th. So I woke up that day and I was really sick at 7 in the morning. For some reason, I just could not handle it. So I missed that. That was the last time I was going to do solar. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll just think about it one day and I'll do it. It's really easy. So, and I enjoy it. Yeah, sorry about I think the songs are just because I uploaded them over a long period of time and I didn't make them all one album. So I think they make you download them in groups. Hopefully some of them are in groups, but if they're not, that's annoying, I know. Perhaps I'll just make a zip file available at some point. Let's see. Benjamin asked me, what do I think about the lunar wave? I've also seen it go through Saturn. So basically the question is, what sun, moon, stars are made of? Are they even solid objects? So that's a lot of stuff in one question, but I'm going to find the playlist. So I've talked about the lunar wave before, and I'll quickly find this. So bear with me, I'm going to repeat it again. Here goes. So this is a playlist that it's called Other Lunar Waves, and it has 13 videos in it, 11 of which are a lot of different people capturing the lunar wave event. It doesn't have, I don't think I put the Saturn, it has the Jupiter wave from John McKeon, but all the rest are lunar waves. And then at the very end, you'll see two videos. One is by Smarter Every Day. It says Shockwave, Shadows in Ultra Slow Motion. And then at the very end in 13 is Explaining Lunar Wave by a channel named 2040. And so this guy proposes that the lunar wave, or at least what he thinks the lunar wave is a shock wave, like breaking the sound barrier. And when you film that through a certain type of atmosphere, you can see the two gradiated fall-off wave fronts. So there's that, so you can see a very good interpretation of it. And then the Smarter Everyday video shows bullets that are essentially breaking the sound barrier, creating very similar looking diagonal dual ripples or wave fronts. So those two videos, coupled with the fact that the previous 10 or 11 are all real events that are not camera related, they're not airplane related. They could be jetcraft related, like hypersonic, supersonic, but not regular like 737s, 747s, or just normal turbine craft. It could also be meteors breaking the sound barrier. Recently I was reading about this thing called magnetic reconnection, where magnetic bubbles around the magnetosphere of Earth snap and reconnect with new magnetic connections. this creates a similar type of thing to a shock wave or bow shock. So lunar wave is very much so this type of event for me. And I don't know if you've seen my videos, but I've captured Saturn, Jupiter, and 3 lunar waves. And so it exists pretty much across the board. It's definitely not cameras, and it's definitely not made up to introduce a new conspiracy. However, people who think that it shows that the moon is a hologram, I don't think it's that, simply because the Earth has a very concentrated, dense magnetosphere that we can see, that you can experience for yourself, and we're seeing almost everything in space or outside of Earth's magnetosphere through what is warping the vision of that. So the atmosphere is turbulent, so you have noise patterns multiplying the image. You have wave fronts moving through, distorting the image. You have vibrations from the Earth, from air conditioners, whatnot, distorting the image. You have diffraction patterns because of the light and the angle. You have distortion of the image because you're seeing the image like a few degrees away from where it would be, because optics essentially has a gradiated fall off of view, so a conical shape, which is essentially a wavefront, precession and compression. Yeah. So planets are real as far as what we think is real. We're seeing them through a sky which is really turbulent and alive, just as much as our body is. And so, yeah, that's what I think the lunar wave is. It's some sort of sonic boom from a supersonic or hypersonic craft, rocket, meteor crossing through the atmosphere, magnetosphere, or it's some sort of, military test of some sort that we don't know. But it's creating essentially what is a double sonic boom. So call Guile, and I don't know, I think it's nice to think about it like that. It's much more logical. That's why it can occur all across the board, and why it really has nothing to do with cameras, airplanes, and definitely not holographic planets. I think really the whole story about planets and space being holographic is really like, I don't think it makes any physical sense. Simply because the technology that would need to exist it actually can't exist. It's not like it doesn't exist yet, but it just can't exist, because that's life. If you think life is all like a simulated vision, then maybe everything's a simulated vision. But if there is a distinction between real and projected holography, then space being projected makes a lot less sense than it being what it is, which is like an array of filamentary pearls along a string, like networks of neurons. Makes a lot more sense that it's real. Benjamin says, well, but the wave slightly displaces the whole moon. So we'll think about the zoom level of the moon. Let's go over to the moon right now, actually, and take a look. You'll see that like the moon in the sky is smaller than the tip of your little finger. So the area of the sonic boom can easily cover the whole surface of the moon. You just have to consider the magnification level. Same thing with Jupiter and Saturn. You can see it in such detail because sonic boom wavefronts are very condensed rarefactions and compressions in our magnetosphere. And so you'll see very fine detail in the wave going across Saturn and Jupiter. And then across the moon, it displaces it, but really much less so. Can you imagine it's like displacing all of Saturn in that clip? Yo, what's going on, David Schmidt? How's it going? Plain, drop me some questions in the chat. Happy to talk about it. Or, yeah. Let's see, hope everybody's doing okay. Let's play some tunes, and I'm gonna go get a drink. I've been yearning for coffee or carrot juice, so let's see, maybe I'll do both, actually. Getting greedy over here. Play some tunes. What up there, Tammy? Welcome. Been a while. Hope you and your husband are doing well. So I ended up getting very cold carrot juice, and that just sounds insane for how chilly it is, but whatever. It's delicious. So we're here at the moon, almost 50%, so you can call it the first quarter. Really harsh viewing conditions tonight with how cold it is, so in and out of focus, that's due to the atmosphere. Good to hear, Tam. All right, well, I'll toast y'all with some juice and a smoke. Let's roll. up, everybody? What up there, Ellie Wynn? How are ya? Hello to the cats as well. Man, it is really chilly. Especially now I had almost frozen carrot juice. Brisk. So it looks like it's getting a little clearer. We got nice views tonight of Mare Serenitatis, Tranquillitatis, Chryseum, Fecunditatis, and Nectaris. All of which I can indicate momentarily once I get up that paint program. So Serenity, Tranquility, Chryseum, Fecundity or Fertility, and I think this is Mare Nectaris. Or is it Humorum? See, am I wrong? Nectaris, hell yeah. So, what else we got? We got hexagons everywhere. Why do scientists think that the moon is covered in perfect circles? I think combination of no one ever correcting and, groupthink, essentially, and then propaganda because the media would never check. They just regurgitate everything the so-called scientists say. Now, I know that they're real scientists, but some of them are so-called themselves scientists, say that moon craters are circular. And as I've shown many times, and I'm about to show again, that moon craters are certainly not perfectly circular. In fact, the majority of them are actually mostly hexagonal, heptagonal, or pentagonal. Some of them are diamonds, like squares or parallelograms, icosahedrons. Others are much rounder than a hexagon, but still have really dodecahedric edges. So really a dearth of circular craters litter our moon, and a plethora of platonic shapes litter the majority of areas on the moon, not just craters, but mares and tiny little fractal versions of the large mares. So let's jump in here, some geometry. Let me read through the comments first. Benjamin says, if I understand you right, we agree that the waves actually go through the moon and not only, no, definitely not. There are no waves, ultimately, really. It's a perturbation in our magnetosphere, ultimately. So the magnetosphere is like the turbulent movement of electron flow along the conjugate geometry Birkeland filament in space. And it follows a certain type of pathway along charge density, along branching and variance. So the waves that I was talking about, all the lunar waves occur within the boundary between our magnetosphere and atmosphere or ionosphere. I don't think we can see the ionosphere, but the magnetosphere is so turbulent, really, because it's holding Earth in space, surrounded by plasma, space, etheric bubbles that hold Earth. And these two connections basically don't really touch. They're like the little quantum drawings that you've seen where everybody's particles don't really touch, but they hold together at the same time. If you look up the Primer fields by David Lapointe, you'll see he sets up little ball magnets in a ring, and they organize in perfect hexagonal honeycomb shapes, but yet they maintain a certain distance from one another. This is the conjugate natural geometry of the universe, the so-called hand of God or imprint of God, or whatever it may be. But since it is that, it also proves that you are also God, because you look just like that. So your eyes, your whole body looks exactly like a solar system, looks exactly like a quantum particle, looks exactly like a universe local cluster. And the recursive nature of that conjugate geometry is what proves that the shapes on the moon, for example. So anyway, just to answer your question quickly, the waves are in Earth's magnetosphere, and they affect the visual of the light coming from the moon, or the resonance coming from the moon that we see, in quotes. And so the moon definitely doesn't wave, Saturn doesn't wave, Jupiter does not wave. Waves are not things. And planets are that large and are that sturdy, like the storms on Jupiter or the hexagon on the North Pole of Saturn. Those are so tightly manifest around their electrical coil that I don't think those things would wave in the way that we filmed them. Really, yeah. It would be so easy to jump to conspiracy, but it's much more difficult to not jump to conspiracy with lunar waves. And usually the more difficult thing is the more yielding thing. All right, let's see. Florida chilly ain't got shit on my cold ass shit here. We had snow this morning. Love me some fucking snow. That's pretty funny. Sorry, I love to curse sometimes. I really try and maintain non-cursing on this channel, but I love cursing. Awesome, Ellie, you're busting through the work. Heck yeah. I busted through the work today as well, and I'm gonna keep working tonight, but doing this for a little bit. It is my, like the thumbnail shows, my space catharsis, and hope it is for some of y'all too. Even though I know I talk a lot of shit, but I think it's good to have a healthy debate. Let's see. David Schmidt says, just lowered the temp on my AC. I like a cold classroom. It's pretty funny. Tammy, depends on the intensity of the said sonic boom. Well, sonic boom's structure, though, is inherently a double wave, or a double wave front. And our atmosphere is so thick with water molecules, hydrogen, nitrogen, a ton of other crap, dust, all sorts of particles in our atmosphere. And as you go up towards space, we have tighter and tighter densities, orders of density and charge. And at the point where there are red sprites, things are like intensely inductive. And that's where we see these wavy, crazy fractal patterns that look like honeycomb magnet noise moving around. And I'll even show you what it looks like. I've realized that the turbulence that we see when I defocus stars, that's actually the magnetosphere. Even though I know a lot of people might disagree with me. I saw this documentary by NASA that sort of shows that same type of turbulent movement when we defocus stars, and yeah, I'll show that in a little bit. Let's see. What up, Oksana? What up, Scott? Let's see. I thought it was atmospheric turbulence. Well, yeah, but what is atmospheric turbulence? If you look that up, you'll see it's a combination of a few different things. But at the same time, think about the power and the energy, the radiance of starlight, and the fact that, like, what is this idea of focusing light to a certain point of definition where you can make it out and it's detailed, versus the, like, defocusing a telescope and receiving the same light from that same star wash, basically, without any detail or specificity to its shape. It's just pure illumination or excitement. I mean, perturbation between the telescope, your eye, the telescope, and then the star, and returning the energy back across all these plasma bubbles. This is how we can see stars, by the connection of these what are invisible or dark matter, dark because they don't want to explain that I think there's a full connection between the quantum realm and the cosmic realm. But you'll see if you follow quantum mechanics, they insist that quantum mechanics doesn't jive with relativity or special relativity. And we're stuck. I'm not stuck, personally, but I feel like science, popular science and mainstream is stuck right there because they've made this fatal mistake of defining a disparity that doesn't really exist. The quantum realm that can be studied in the laboratory is actually how the cosmos work. Special relativity is unnecessary. It's the salvationism with Einstein to keep idolizing a caricature like Einstein or Sagan or any of these cats to a point where they can never be wrong is definitely not science. So if you toss relativity and Big Bang cosmology and say quantum mechanics, all the experiments that are being done, like if you look up, like what does Large Hadron Collider actually do? So they basically excite these tiny little toruses with hourglass shapes in the middle of them, basically little Z-pinches of energy, and they create interactions between these two little Z-pinches of energy, and these two little Z-pinches act just like the bubbles. So they're little plasma bubbles that meet and they explode. And because of the nature of the instrument, it's measuring the finest perturbations in this plasma bubble that is happening by two little plasma bubbles hitting each other, like a hydrogen ion, or like smashing protons together. Pretty much the smallest piece of energy that we can see, this Planck unit, is basically 1 point of perturbation in the ether. And that still looks like the torus with the hourglass shape at just the smallest scale. And then at the very, very largest scale, it also looks like that. And if science could accept that and move past it, we would be in the future tomorrow. But they still want to have disparity. That's how the money comes. They'll never reconcile it. You can't reconcile it because Einstein basically said he got rid of the ether in his calculations, and it's a fatal flaw. Plus he added the cosmological constant, which he admitted was his fatal flaw. Yet people, it's still blasphemous. Even what I'm saying right now, I have so much conviction because I'm certain that Einstein was not 100% correct. But yeah, look at circles on Reddit or Quora or other YouTube channels. They deify him. And he's clearly not 100% correct with special relativity or even general relativity. And he won the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect, which was really stolen from or a modified version of what Henri Poincaré was really doing. So it's that simple. I don't know why we even bother talking about it. And then Halton Arp destroyed the concept of redshift and Doppler shift being a result of the expansion of the universe. He has about 5,000 examples of galaxies and quasars that defy this theory about redshift. And redshift is basically how they tell you, oh, the blah, blah, blah is 10 trillion light years from here. They use this thing called redshift. And if you understand or look up redshift, you'll see that redshift literally was decimated by Professor Chip Arp 20 years ago or 30 years ago with real observational evidence, not mathematical models or simulations, like actual photos of quasars and galaxies with different redshifts in the same frame connected by filaments. And they prove it today with simulations, but they won't change the science. Scott Ferguson says, is there such a thing as an electron particle? Well, I think the interpretation really, if you look up electron, is that it's a particle in the outer region of an atom that has a probability factor, a plus or minus charge. So it's really emitting charge density, charge radiation. So certain atoms have more electrons, like they're more dense, and some have less electrons and are less dense. So fundamental building blocks have less dense outer shells or inner really it's just the same thing, donut, hyperboloid. Actually, let me just sketch it. I keep saying I'm going to sketch it, but if you just imagine the fundamental. All right. I'll even sketch it on top of a crater. So, not a crater. This is a Mare Crisium hexagon. And then you got the infinity shape, which is a 2D cross-section of a torus. And then the torus has the magnetic field, which is the apple core, which is apple eyes, owl eyes, apple core, the lungs, human eyes, every chakra, the human aura, solar systems, planets, and at every center point right here, this is the now, the experience of all matter and time that we experience as the moment. Energy in and energy out. Energy in, energy out. Energy, dark matter, etheric plasma, vibration of the field, whatever you consider light, right? And so matter coalesces along the dielectric inertial plane. That's why you have planets at the center and tiny little planets orbit those planets. But really, this whole shape is like the infinity torus, right? And then here you have the hourglass, the two inverted pyramids, the Merkaba. This is what they tell you to meditate on. This is also the hourglass shape. This is also the human shape, the squatter man. This is a human's eyebrow. It's the mouth of a lion. It's every single shape in reality, the conjugate geometry of nature, of all reality, at every level. And if you look at the universe through this, emanating shells of materials. So this is the nucleus, and then these are the electron shells. And so it's basically probability energy right here. Things either are on or off. And there are probably no neutrons either. There's likely just protons, and protons are basically z-pinches of etheric energy coming to one point, the now, right? And the gradient fall off here, 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 and here. This is the experience of the past, future, past, future. Things are held in space because there are other bubbles like this, packed. Telepathy works because they're all interconnected. Spooky action works at a distance because of this same connection. They're all working along filamentary long current lines. So we're grown just like nerves or lymph nodes. Whoa. Drawn off the page. Light instantaneous. Information seems to be instantaneous. Light also seems to be the one thing. The reason it's instantaneous is because everything is light. It doesn't travel, or it doesn't seem to travel. It seems to travel, but it doesn't travel. That's what, because it seems that the coalescing, I'm drawing on OBS here. So the coalescing of matter at this point is due to the fact that there is a shape to the universe, and then there's energy everywhere, counter space, that holds matter in place. So like the page and the words. I think we say particle because it's the word that we want to use to define a dot or a little sphere or the smallest bit. You know, I don't know if we have the right word for, tiny sphere, really. It's the tiniest sphere you can imagine is the quantum particle. And quantum mechanics wants to also introduce this idea of strings. So they're saying it's not just like each dot is like a string that's waving at a certain vibration, creating this particular type of dot. But I think they're wrong. I think that string theory is just another layer of the fractal. It's still the same fractal. They're just at a different magnitude. So at the smallest bit that we can see now is a tiny sphere, and then string theory, because they can't see it, they're just imagining. They're like, smaller than that, it would be like a line that's waving. And then I bet if you go smaller than that, it becomes a little dot again. So it's, again, the same type of fractal nature. So David Schmidt says, oh boy, well, the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. So it isn't exactly instantaneous, but it is pretty damn fast. So I'm just going to go on a rant here just about speed of light and the language surrounding talking about the speed of light. Actually, I've already kind of been on this rant for the last 20 minutes, but it really doesn't make any sense that light travels. And it really doesn't make any sense that we're looking into the past. It just doesn't. It doesn't seem scientifically accurate. What seems accurate is that the speed of light as we know it on Earth works a certain way. And in space, as far out as mankind has been, it works a certain way. But to say that light is the same way forever, since the Big Bang and every part of the universe doesn't make any sense. And it's already been proven that light not only varies, but that essentially scientists have to define and round up to a particular number in order to enforce a speed limit on light. That is not science. I mean, I know that people love those kind of ultimates, these perfect things, pi and phi, but these are also things that we're adding attributes to. You can't write 1.615 on a piece of paper and have it create reality. Reality is, and then we write these mathematical formulae to describe them and to maybe recreate them, but definitely they are derived from what already exists. So saying something like the speed of light and creating the atmosphere around it that it can never change and we can never question it doesn't seem like proper science to me. What is Limitless Channel? How's it going? Scott Ferguson says, Ken Wheeler recently did a good video that there's no E-particle. All of the fathers of electricity also were reluctant to call it a ball particle, but it works for the math. Exactly, like the idea of using math as a descriptor of a reality that we can only really experience. We can't ever really find the correct words to define it. And it falls in line with the Zen thinking of, a fire cannot burn itself, a knife cannot cut itself, the self cannot know the self. And I would argue that the reality that we see around us is the self. How can one really truly know the self? All we're trying to do is keep cutting it into finer and finer slices, and it keeps getting further and further away from us, smaller and smaller into strings and quantum bits and muons and gluons and reverse, all these like Higgs boson and gravitons and multiple world theories. And then out in the cosmos, they're like, we're gonna find exoplanets that are Earth-like because, we're about to destroy Earth and, we just got to get the hell out of here. What's the point of spending any money on finding Earth-like planets? It's just one of the most insane goals. It would never fly in a regular local business like a restaurant or a deli. It'd be like saying, like some street corner deli being like, I'm only going to buy, $1,000 cans of caviar and sell it. And his brother's like, no, man, like you won't make $1. He's like, no, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to spend all my money on stocking caviar. And that's really what SETI is. That's what exoplanet research is. That's what just any number of programs that I don't want to really crap on are like that. The goals that are set by somebody, some agency, are actually really ridiculous goals. Like we shouldn't be going to Mars. And we definitely shouldn't be spending any money on exoplanet research. Give me one good reason that we spent any money on that, except to say that to aggrandize points like that, to be poetic and be like, they're Earth-like planets, you guys. They're Earth-like. How Earth-like? We can't tell you, but they're really Earth-like. They're the right size and temperature from their host star. What does that mean? I don't know, but some scientist told me to say that and to wave my hands around and really edit it very quickly and look pretty. I mean, that's where we live. So conjugate geometry of reality, sugar molecules and bee hives look exactly like features on the moon. That's crazy. That's just like, that's the reality we live in. Yeah, David Schmidt, but that's just using semantics to disprove something that's already not a thing, There is no theory like that. I'm talking about like gravity definitely exists, but even mainstream cosmology cannot explain how quasars work, how black holes work, or what a black hole really is. And, we go toe-to-toe on every single article that's come out. But Thunderbolts Project has already done that, but they don't even go far enough. To be honest, what's more ridiculous is that NASA already has a plasma program. They already believe in everything that I'm saying, but it's not mainstream. So nobody holds their feet to the fire when they're just doing nonsense. Look at their YouTube channel, it's nonsense. They know the conjugate geometry of reality, they know magnetic ropes, they know magnetic reconnection, they're 100% aware of the aurora, the effect of solar flares, 100%. And they don't lie about it. The thing is, the public misinterprets what NASA's missions are and just lauds them without considering what they're doing. Anyway, I've been talking a lot. Give me a topic. And also Tammy says, sadly, mainstream science has us at a disadvantage. Well, I would argue that from a Zen perspective, it's always nice to have a challenge, right? If we knew everything immediately, life would just become not life. So this challenge of figuring out what physics is, where we came from, all these quests are valid because this is the experience of life. Not having it is not life, at least for me. So, but I'm definitely interested in discussing, like, let's see, we speculate on hypotheses, then we test them and either disprove, prove, or refine the experiment's criteria. I would agree in the world of coding. I would agree in the world of pharmaceuticals. I would go down a list of different industries that do use that type of work. However, cosmology, or at least mainstream pop cosmogony, the religious version of it, which is basically ad hoc theorems and spooky language, ultimately just mostly spooky language, to distort what is already understood and probably being used. Yeah. So give me one topic in current physics that can be overturned. Why can't things be overturned? What is the legacy? Like who's holding whose feet to the fire? Lawrence Krauss? Neil deGrasse Tyson? You're worried that what these people think of you? I don't give a crap what those guys think about my life. Stephen Hawking, I mean, I know he's dead, and I know a lot of people think he was a puppet, but even if he was real, like, why is he a better person than people that I know who are nice and friendly and also smart? Just because he's been on TV and and people revere him. It's like, look at a ton of people out there right now who are revered and who are very famous and very popular, who are terrible people, who have the worst values imaginable. So I don't validate science using celebrities. So if you remove the celebrities from it, like Sagan, like Dawkins, like Hawking, like Neil deGrasse, like Lawrence Krauss, like Edward Witten, like all the, David Wilcock, get rid of all these celebrity fools and just say, okay, nothing wrong with them, not get rid of them, like kill them. I mean, take that back, YouTube, not saying anything negative about these cats. They're all fine, all good. I mean, just stop watching them. And you'll see that your own discovery of physics has nothing to do with what they were talking about. What's his name? Brian Cox. I mean, these guys are dead set on repackaging nostalgia. It's the same thing that Heinz repackages, same thing that Charm, or whatever, is it Lucky Charms, or Trix. It's like cereal products or what is it? Detergent is what I was looking for. It's like Tide. They repackage Tide year after year, and they don't change it. It's like Coca-Cola. They finally had to admit that they were poisoning everybody. But did anybody hold them accountable? People still, they're like, oh, thank God you're not poisoning me now, but I still want a Coke. So it's the same thing with physics. I just am noticing that that's just like a tiresome way and a stagnant future if we can't talk about overturning the cosmic microwave background radiation, the surface of the sun, the lunar geological features, the results from Mars. Give me an actually valuable result from Martian robotics. One actionable thing, something that like us as human beings benefited from. Besides having pictures from Mars, what did we really benefit from? From Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity, a whole bunch of these others, like 50 missions to Mars, without taking into account what we're doing to Mars by like dumping metal on it, talk about preservationism. Same thing with the moon, like who owns the moon? Why don't we have these discussions in mainstream? Mainstream science is idiotic. I mean, it's the most banal idiotic. And I'm talking about like, even like the really big channels. I mean, especially the big channels. He's got a white lab coat. I mean, that's really a meme, but it's true. Like, who gave the first PhD? Also, I know a lot of PhDs who are horrible people. Awful, awful people. The mental institutions are full of people with PhDs. And they call people who have real thought crazy, but it's the total opposite. It's the people who have been indoctrinated into a system that can never question and never change. And they point fingers at each other. I know some of my Chan might take offense to this, but this is why I don't like Flat Earth or ufology anymore. Not Flat Earth, I didn't like that, but ufology, I was really into that. But you realize the way people talk to each other within those communities is all finger pointing. And it's just like, there's no science. Look, and you might think I'm being hypocritical because I'm finger pointing, but I'm actually sharing an image of the moon that's realistic. I'm replacing terrible music that's been modified, like GMO modified to screw your earballs and brain, and I'm replacing it actively with new music and interesting thoughts that you guys have never had, or maybe that you've had. And I'm also treating myself well by having a space catharsis. So I don't think that, and just I'm going to reiterate this, I don't think NASA is 100% lying about things. I actually think they do a lot of incredible, like mind-blowing things. But with every situation, or every business rather, you're going to get conspiracy. Conspiracy to sell, conspiracy to brand. And what conspiracy means is that a group of people sat in a room, people that you know or might not know, and decided to sell you a product. And they planned for like a year or 10 or 20 or 30 years to sell you this product. And people don't want to I don't think people like to admit that, but that's what business really is. So business is conspiracy. Business is conspiring. So definitely space agencies conspire to develop products that you don't know about, to test products that you don't know about, and to release whatever data makes them look as good as possible. So there will never be disclosure in terms of aliens. There will never be disclosure in terms of flat Earth. There will never, ever, ever be a disclosure about the underground cities that exist. And that's it. There's no interest for them to do that. It just won't happen because they operate efficiently. NASA operates as efficiently as they're supposed to. The snakehead knows what it's doing entirely. And everybody thinks they don't, but they do. And they also don't have any desire to change, because why would they sell you a product that this is why Marvel movies keep being made, because people say, oh, they're terrible, but I still watch it. So the day people stopped going to Marvel movies or stopped voting, things would change. And it just takes each person doing that. It doesn't take you evangelizing to anyone. Yo, peace out, David. I don't know if you left because I said something, but no offense meant. Just having a thought here. GMO music, you know what I'm talking about, like that stuff they put on in all the pharmacies, the imposed success of this music, and then people think that they asked for it because they just can't get away from it. It's a tough, that's the jungle of like avoiding these daggers of terrible music. Really, same thing with anything UFO related now. It feels like pop music. It really does. It's like I'm being attacked by it. Like, I don't care about any of these things. I don't care about Nibiru, but we know now Nibiru really, the concept of Nibiru. Ultimately, Electric Universe does have catastrophism, and space is real, and shit could go crazy. That's really exciting. It's really exciting. But it has nothing to do with somebody holding the veil over our eyes. It's completely our own doing. Oh, what's up, Miguel Gonzalez? I'm just scrolling up here to see if I missed anyone. All right, everybody. Thanks for dealing with my ranting over here. I'm going to go a little bit longer, and let's zoom in here on the moon. I know I've been neglecting the view, just talking it up, but I got a lot to say, clearly. Clearly. Let's do this.
Float, the moon is calling, a souvenir. As soon as rescued, our hope remain. Left fixing the phone, mixing your liquids, now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. Float, the moon is calling, a souvenir. As soon as rescued, our hope remain. Left fixing the phone, mixing your liquids, now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. Float, the moon is calling, a souvenir. As soon as rescued, our hope remain. Left fixing the phone, mixing your liquids, now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. Float, a formidable opponent, an angry cripper, formidable opponent, dangerous lecture, formidable opponent. Walk out. Formidable opponent, think you have the choice. Formidable opponent, angry cripper. Formidable opponent, dangerous lecture. Formidable opponent, you can walk out. Formidable opponent, think you have the choice.
Yo. Man, I thought I'd at least garner a couple of comments on that rant. Let me know what y'all thought, or maybe you just tuned me out. But it's fine. It is pretty chilly. Dang. Usually I'm complaining about how damn hot it is, but sitting here with our beautiful moon, first quarter, just seeing so much geometry on it. I even see like a tetrahedral cube that I haven't seen before, which I could draw real quick.
This is the game of life. It's not what I tell ya. Welcome to the game of life. Do what you want to do. Playing the game of life. Not 'cause I tell ya. Listen to the game of life. Spin round, time is here. See the light break. Light to the danger. Time will spin in the eye of rain. Oh, come on, the price is right. But only if you want to. I'll give you your precious right. Do what you want to do. It's till you're fast asleep. Falling in faster, falling in faster. Dance till you're fast asleep. Falling in faster, falling in faster. Dance till you're fast asleep. Falling in faster, falling in faster. You fall till you're fast asleep. Spiraling faster, breathing faster. That's till you're fast asleep. Falling in faster, spiraling faster.
So you see this cube here with an inside kind of platonic, and what's crazy here is that this is not just random. Like, this is being formed because of what we can't see, which is counter space. So space that's pushing in or holding this shape in play is invisible to us, but these are the forces. So everything gets compressed as things grow out of the ether. Yo, what's going on, Rune Thorson? Then it's not a cube, someone whispered in the background. No, but it is reminiscent of a two-dimensional representation of a cube. And the reason you can draw even this shape over it so specifically, like, you could do it yourself, of course. But it's just this recursive nature of geometry. Here's another one, infinity, the 2D representation of the torus with the hyperboloid going through it. It's everywhere. And it's at all different magnitudes as well, so. And then you see these that look kind of elliptical. If we zoomed in, I can show you the angles. Non-GMO music coming at you.
Tell you all, think what you want, but I can listen to the news. Better believe me, certainly cannot lose. Oh, bleed how we bleed, you got to know just when to heal. Better believe me, this is why we're real. Know what you don't, and know just know when not to call. Better believe it, will it tell us all? Think what you want, and don't just listen to the news. Better believe it, still we cannot lose. It's out of the way, it's smooth and fools. But it's not my kind of love, little girl. It's out of the way, it's smooth and fools. Then I'm inside out, I'm outside out. It's out of the way, it's smooth and fools. Can't be tried by everybody. It's part of the way, cool and fools. But it's inside out, I'm outside out. That's just the way you steal cool. In literature, eyes make all the rules. Cooking up every sun and goose. Slowly tightening my noose. That's just what you want.
See, after a while you'll notice that not only do these shapes occur extremely regularly, but also that a lot of them have these large features on the rims. So here's like a semicircle, kind of bay shape. I think this is Fracastorius, but this is also even angled like that. And then you have Theophilus, which also looks round, but then you go in closer, you'll see it has corners. This is a little bit rounder over here because of kind of probably the way this expanded outwards from here and met this moving outwards from there. This being a smaller node expanding, and this being probably a much larger. Actually, this might have happened afterwards and kind of eroded this area. But still, they exist at such perfect relation to one another. Think about bombardment and how it would really happen. It would look like a mess. This really looks organized, even though it looks like a mess. And that organization is how bubbles look on the surface of water. So there's this boiling thing that has to happen. Yeah, I think the veil is there that we put over ourselves, really. I think, yeah, I preach, see? I adhere, or I try and adhere my life to this idea of self-responsibility. And not in terms of, like, the way people think about it, in terms of, oh, we're killing Earth, or, we have to save Earth. More about existence. Like, I brought myself into this world. My mother did, but ultimately, we choose to come into this life. Your parents don't really craft a heart or eyeballs or lungs or the shape of the body. They just do. They create a process. They get a process, and they create a beginning of this reaction. However, before that, there's all this information that's going to create your heart and lungs and the way things emerge into this reality. So we have just as much of a responsibility as to, how we got here as a god or a Big Bang or politician or a philosopher. Ultimately, every person, since we're connected to this giant network, is ultimately responsible for being here. Therefore, there's no salvation. It's self-salvation. And, you can have that, but just know that it's that. Anyway, Theophilus, Cyrillus, and Katharina, examples of a crater chain that is rarely discussed in the mainstream and is a very prominent lunar feature. You can see very gentle corners that are a bit rounded, but still you have corners gone. This is Theophilus with that really cool central peak. This is one of those prominent signs or important signs of electrical scarring is this little midpoint bullseye craters, as they're called. And then this looks, I know, it looks just like, sometimes I think out loud. Essentially, these two are bubbles emerging, creating this boundary layer. And that's why you have this type of shape in it as well. Again, torus, hyperboloid, flow in from both directions and then inertial plane. So right at the center of this, that's why you have, this is essentially Squatter Man again. Squatter Man, eyeballs, mouth, everything exists within this. Skull, you name it, and then filaments. So the imprint of electrical scarification exists directly on the moon. Yo, what's going on, Jonas? Zen says responsibility also applies to respond to your abilities. Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it. For that, you need spiritual freedom. Awesome talk. Thank you. I'm glad you decided to tune in tonight. Welcome. Man, it is chilly. Love it. It really is the first time it feels like winter this year. But it's not going to last. And I'm happy. I love my 75-day clear skies. What can I say? All right, so let's check out what else is going on. So that Theophilus, Cyrillus, Katharina, and then of course the dumbbell shape of it. Like what kind of impact? So think about the heavy bombardment or the late heavy bombardment that is portrayed in the simulation of the formation of the moon. Really, this is the official story. People tell me, no, it's already been discovered. It's already been figured out. But if you look up origin of the moon, the most popular answer on Quora, and the most popular video on YouTube is this 4.5 billion year old simulation of this late heavy bombardment. So the moon basically being hit, not a single planetary interaction, not a single electrical interaction, coming to the way it is today about 1 billion years ago, and then not much happening except for tiny little hits. And to me, that's just pure insanity at this point. Having seen the lunar surface up close, none of it makes sense in terms of that type of simulation. And so we really don't have an alternative that's official, so-called official. People just roll with it. And I think it's such a huge breakthrough to consider an alternative that if the moon and Ceres and other planetary bodies like Comet 67P and Ryugu and Bennu and Oumuamua they all look like the moon and Mars, and all the shapes and features are similar, then they all have the same type of situation. So really, like, they went through a phase of electrical arc discharge that all the government agencies are fully aware is a physical manifestation in our reality. Electric discharge machining is used every single day at NASA, at major agencies. And when you look at electrical discharge in a laboratory, and you look at the surface of the moon and all the other planetoids I talked about, they're perfect similarities. There are similarities in terms of dendritic structures, dendritic ridges, hexagonal features, sputter marks, organized geometry, bubbling center peaks, sharp crevices and canyons that are carved out, shapes that look like intrinsic geometry, Fibonacci sequence, golden spirals, hexagons. I could go down a list of way more things, but those are some prominent reasons that it's very, very easy to see that that lunar geology is the key for very simple expansion of the mind and research if you really choose to do research. I think a lot of people on YouTube watch videos and they want to do research, but they feel like everything's been done because that's what a business would tell you. It'd be like, why would you go make another burger? We make the best burgers, you know? Or why make another detergent? Tide is the only detergent. Of course businesses want to say that. So NASA will never have a program where it encourages the public to create rockets and to go into space. It'll use all the astronomers' telescopes and occupy them with exoplanet research, which is pointless, versus creating like a real-world lunar atlas that really is awesome. Look up online lunar atlas, a Google Moon, LRO, you name it. It's really not as good as it could be. I mean, there are so many things that we could be doing. We just, I don't know, there's very little importance because people have been conditioned to believe that the moon is unimportant, but I'm here to show otherwise. Although the turbulence tonight, because of the cold, is pretty rough on the focus. Still, easy to really see all these angles. Even if one of these craters is hexagonal, there should be scientific study dedicated to it. But all of them, and them looking also like sugar molecules and crystal lattice formations, and them also resembling like Squatter Man and Fibonacci spirals or golden ratio spirals. All right, I'm gonna go a little bit longer, but I gotta stretch. Back on a couple. Leave me a question or two or a comment. Let me know what you think of all these crazy ideas we have about the moon that we can't seem to change because of some reason. right, y'all. I'm gonna go get some dinner. So just want to leave a couple of links here and some shout outs. So definitely check the description for links to Electric Universe info. Check out the Electric View and let's see. Electric View, Thunderbolts Project, Electro Terra Vision, Greg J, Electric Universe Eyes, Kronos, See the Pattern, Gareth, Suspicious Observers, Electric Sputtering, Discharge, Halton Arp, Sky Scholar. All of those are worth watching once at least. Thanks for listening to me rant tonight. Thanks for picking up my music and all the kind words about it. If anybody missed earlier, I talked about the lunar wave and what I think about it, and I posted a link. So if anybody's wondering about that, or you have a friend who wants to know what I think about the lunar wave, this is the video to mark. I explained my thoughts in detail. Also, please check out the playlists. I've archived a lot of cool shows. There are a whole bunch done for a long time, so if you're new, please go through the history and have some fun. I'll be back tomorrow with some more of this. Hopefully it'll be slightly clearer. Yo, thanks Ellie, I appreciate that. Thank you and all of y'all for coming through every time and hanging out with me. See, I'm almost like jittery here. All right, I'm gonna get some nice warm hot cocoa and some dinner. And I don't know, maybe I'll stream again a little bit later, but if not, I'll catch y'all tomorrow. Jonas has a great comment, says, my perspective is that they're making space as boring as possible to remove the mystery and the magic of life. Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I agree exactly. But the thing is, that is the motive. That is actually the modus operandi. That's how they're going to operate. So this expectation that governments or businesses will change their practices, like disclosure, etc., is really, it's just a futile practice. There's much more efficient methods to change the paradigm. And one of them is really to understand the state of physics and how physics relates. And physics, I just mean like what you consider real with the unreal. That connection, that critical thinking and articulation of using words correctly is what will change things, not only pointing fingers. All right, Tammy and Mary, oh man, oh lady, oh girl. You just showed up, but I gotta head out. I'm really starving right now. But nice to see you for a little bit. Hope you're well. Tammy, take care. Ellie, thank you, and good night. Jonas, I appreciate it. Jeff Mills, I hope you like being deleted. Sounded like a Russian hacker bot, Chinese bot, GMO bot. Meredith, thanks for hanging out. Rune Thorson, I can definitely take a joke. That didn't sound like one. Jacob, thanks for hanging out. And David Schmidt, I hope you didn't get offended. Maybe I'll see you soon. Take care. And Scott Ferguson. Who else? That's all I got. Hope I didn't miss you. If I did, I still appreciate you. Have a great rest of your night. I'll catch you soon with some more space catharsis tomorrow. Bonne nuit.